Just imagine the whole of Argos here. Anything you want, PlayStations, all these games that nowadays you're all playing at home, all of them, you could just take anything from this room. Would you come into this room and go to sleep? No. Who said yeah? Because you'd be a fool. If you went to sleep for 1 hour and I came after an hour and said, right, your time's up, mate, come on out. If you're walking away with nothing, you'd be a damn fool. And the clever one, right, some of you big lads, I'm sure you'd be taking many, many bags away. And that's what you call a wise person. You know, life is like that as well. You know, these years that you've got, we don't know when our end's going to come. But if we take to the grave all the good deeds, we'll feel happy. Allah will be happy with us. If we don't take much in the grave, then I'm sorry, nobody else is going to come with us. It's only the good deeds, and that's why time is very, very important. Let's move on. Another hadith. The Prophet said, لا تزول قدم ابن آدم يوم القيامة حتى يسأل عن خمس. The Prophet ﷺ said, nobody will be able to move on the day of judgment until they have been asked 5 questions. عن عمره فيما أفنى. On his life and where he spent his life. What did you do with your life? Allah will ask us. وعن شبابه فيما أبلى. Allah is going to ask us about the youth. Today we're all young. Then all of a sudden you get into teenager. You become a teenager. Right? You start to see different parts of your body growing. And lots of changes and transition happening in your life. You almost feel as though they're the biggest gangster on the street. You think everybody else doesn't know what you're thinking. And then from teenager you start to get more older and you become a parent, you have small kids, you're still at your peak. All of a sudden from there you start hitting an age where you start having grandsons and grandchildren. Then it's all over. You get into the old age where nobody wants to see you. Kids on the street will throw things at you because you're so old. And it's true, it might seem funny, but life is moving. You'll remember me one day. You'll be thinking on that street, remember that Ustadi? He used to tell us life will go so fast. It will, trust me. With the blink of an eye, that's how fast it's going. So we need to utilize the time that we've got in our youth. Okay? وَعَنْ مَالِهِ مِنْ أَيْنَ اكْتَسَبَ. Allah is going to ask us about the wealth. Where did we gain this wealth? And that's why we need to think. Especially you teenagers at the back. You know, do well for yourself. Don't depend on all these people on the streets who have smart cars. They're not acquiring their wealth from the right means. And if you do the wrong things, you can get a lot of money, but Allah's going to ask you, where did you get this money from? And where did you spend this money? That's the next question. And the last question which you will be asked, وَمَاذَا عَمِلَ فِي مَا عَلِمَ. That what did you do in regards to what you knew? What action did you do? So when you come to madrasa, you're taking away knowledge. But knowledge is no good if you just take it and store it. You've got to put it into practice. Another hadith of the Prophet says, اغتنم خمسا قبل خمس شبابك قبل هرمك صحتك قبل سقمك غناك قبل فقرك وفراغك قبل شغلك وحياتك قبل موتك. Allah's messenger said, grasp 5 things. Young man, how many things? 5 things. Before, 5 others. So 5 things we need to really hold on to before it's gone. Youth, before your old age. In other words, when you're young, try and do as many things as you can. So when you're old and you look back at your life, you think to yourself, you know what? I've done really well for myself. I've left all this behind. I've done so much. Okay? Your health before your illness. Again, we talked about that. Today you're healthy, tomorrow, may God forbid, if an illness was to come onto us, then we'd be in a very difficult situation. And your riches before your poverty. In Pakistan, many people were very, very rich. The flood came, took away all their wealth. All the animals were swept away. Within one night, millionaires became the poor people. It can happen to anybody. That's why when you're rich, you need to thank God and give a lot of charity. Not, think that that's it. Because you're rich, you've got everything. No. And your leisure before your work. Now you're at a time where you can go and play. But soon, when you get responsibilities, ask us. We're almost working all day just to make ends meet. You understand? So, make use of it. And your life before your death. In other words, make use of your life before it's all over and death comes to you. There's a few other hadiths, but I'd like to move on to something what Sheikh Abdul Fattah Abu Ghudda, who was a very famous muhaddith in this time. He lives in Syria, and he had a few things to say about time. He's wrote a book in which he talks about the value of time. He's actually said, the people who do not value time and waste all their spare time are truly deprived and are at a great loss. A person's life will pass away in the twinkling of an eye, and he will be left truly empty-handed. That's why utilize the time you have. I'm going to finish with one or two things, and one thing I'd like to mention is a poem in Arabic, a shi'r. حياتك أنفاس تعد بها كلما مضى نفس انتقصت به جزءا. That your life is like a number of breaths. Just take a breath. Okay? Calm down. Don't get too excited. Your life is like a number of breaths. And every time you take a breath, just imagine that now, that every time you take this breath, your life has become one breath shorter. And you're getting closer towards your end. Okay? So we really need to value time. There's many scholars that have gone in the past. Ibn al-Jawzi, he wrote 1,000 books in his lifetime. 1,000 books he wrote. Can you imagine?